Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the podcast. We're your host. I'm Alex.
And I'm Brandon.
And together we are the Insightful Morons. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first ever official episode of the Insightful Morons podcast. We're your host. I'm Alex.
And I'm Brandon.
And today, we will be making a podcast. How's it feel, Brandon? This has been on our plate for a couple of months now. We've been talking about it since like September, I think, and now we're here. It's a thing. We're doing it.
I'd say it feels good, dude. It's pretty interesting to be doing. We have a lot of ideas and topics to be talking about. I'm a little sleep deprived, but I'm ready for it, dude.
Dude, the sleep deprivation just makes it even more interesting, let me tell you.
More comical.
Exactly. You have more to add to it. Now, throughout this podcast, we will be learning a thing or two, or at least I will be learning a thing or two on the technical side. So apologies if the sound gets a little odd at points. I'm kind of still figuring out the equipment a little bit. So apologies on my end. So how are you doing today, Brandon?
I'm doing okay. Craving a Capri Sun for some reason, but I'm doing okay.
Just like your typical third grader.
I woke up at 10. I was like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta leave my house. I gotta go to work today. I have to be a fucking responsible human being. So you know what I did? I came here, laid on the couch for a good solid 2 hours, and here we are.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Did a very similar thing. Woke up at 9:55, and I was like, oh no, I have to be out the door. And now I'm here at 1:20 p.m.
That's okay. I mean, you're a better man than I. I'll tell you that.
Well, I wouldn't exactly say that. I think we're on an equal playing field at least.
If I woke up at 9:55, I would have went back to sleep. You went to work.
Well, I mean, for whatever reason, whenever I get 3 hours of sleep, I wake up so much easier. I know it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to me. I get 3 hours, my alarm goes off, I jump up, I'm ready for the day.
I try to be ready for the day, but I'm kind of just ready. I don't think I'm ever full on actually ready for any day. I'm just kind of there. You know, existence is I don't know. It's one of those things you kind of just have.
Yeah, I get you. That's kind of how it is, though. You know, for a week period, during the work week, Monday through Friday, I tend to get 3 hours of sleep, and then I feel like shit by Friday, and then I sleep for 12 hours on the weekends. So that's typically how it goes. Let me tell you.
Sleeping, man. Do you get your REM sleep, Alex? Huh? Do you get proper REM sleep cycles, or you just nah?
Well, from a study I read a while back, the typical sleep cycle is about an hour and a half. So 3 hours, I'm getting 2 cycles. You know, I try to space it out like that because when I do wake up, I typically do feel better when I get that hour 30 interval. So 3 hours, 4.5 hours, 6 hours, stuff like that.
Well,
that's when you're really in the ballpark.
I'm making sure my homie's got that rapid eye movement. You know
hell
what
yeah,
I'm saying?
man! You got to get to that deep stage of sleep.
Because the more dreaming and bodily movement, it's the faster your pulse is. You're going to be breathing like a fucking choo-choo train after that.
I mean, I also wake up with sleep paralysis every now and again, so.
Yeah, dude, that's not good, but, I've heard sleep paralysis is quite interesting.
It is a very interesting experience. I can't say I've ever, seen a sleep paralysis demon or some shit.
I was about to ask, who is your sleep paralysis demon?
It's John Travolta.
Oh.
I'm his biggest fan, so it's not really a demon,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I've never really woken up and not been able to move and been oh, holy shit, the fucking Grudge is on my ceiling. There's a little girl eating a fucking hand in the corner. And if you do see something, it's an odd shadow, and you're oh fuck, I can't move. There's a shadow over there. What the fuck is that shadow? No, instead I just wake up. I'm paralyzed, and I'm trying to move my limbs, and I'm whimpering like a dog having a bad dream, just in the hopes that I break out of it.
That sounds like
horrible.
A battlefield war scenario, dude. I would get that looked at, and maybe a cheap brain scan.
A cheap brain scan.
Yeah, just not the expensive ones.
Yeah, the ones they sell at Costco.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, the Walgreens X-rays. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that you should check yourself, man. You should sleep more, get some better rest. Make sure you're not, having sleep paralysis demons to that extent. That's a little intense. I know my brother has sleep paralysis, but I myself have never had a full-on sleep paralysis attack. I've had nightmares, but I don't just wake up unable to move, man. That sounds scary.
Let me tell you, man, the first time it ever happened, it was freaking terrifying.
I'm sure.
I was having a really weird dream, and then I woke up. I was unable to move, and I was like trying to reach out my hand to grab my dog, anything for comfort. And it's just like, fuck, I'm paralyzed right now.
I don't think you're getting enough REM. There are five stages of sleep that rotate between the non-rapid eye movement, which is NREM, and rapid eye movement, REM, which is includes drowsiness, light sleep, moderate to deep sleep, the deepest sleep, and then full-on dreaming. So you have to get 7 to 9 hours to actually reach that state. Are you getting 7 to 9 hours to reach that state, Alex?
I don't know if that's how it works.
But that's how REM sleep. That's how.
But I'm not getting 7 to 9 hours, no.
That's sad. But yeah, there are 5 stages to REM sleep. It's basically just falling asleep.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
No, not very often.
See, that.
Like I said, man, on a typical good night, I get 4.5 to 6 hours.
Last night I slept for I got about the same. I didn't sleep very well last night.
I got 3 hours.
I feel like Joe Rogan in the morning doing hot yoga.
Joe Rogan, after he eats 150 edibles, goes into a sleep deprivation tank, wakes up and does hot yoga and sets off his fire alarms. That's a good way to say how I feel right now.
4th of July. That sounds like the 4th of July. That sounds like a good ass time, dude.
That does sound like a good ass 4th of July, let me tell you.
Yeah, man. So how has my boy been?
The boy has been, living life to the fullest. Not really, but just living life.
What's it like knowing that the slight possibility of people hearing our reach, our voice, I guess.
The slight possibility?
Yeah, the slight well, there's a possibility, but I mean, the actual fact. Someone's, some random person's going to stumble upon this and be like, oh, this is entertainment. And then he's just going to listen to the most depressing 2 white kids talk about how sad their lives is. He's going to be like, instant subscription right here. I can see it.
I can see it, too.
I can see it.
Be like, oh, 2 pasty white boys who grew up in the mountains of Colorado. Not really the mountains.
It's basically the Eric Andre show, just a lot more cringe.
We're more like Rhett and Link meets Joe Rogan.
I just want to be spaghettified. If anybody doesn't know what spaghettification is, it's the theoretical process of an object getting stretched by the gravity of a black hole.
Yep.
And to me, that sounds better than anything I could ever ask for. I mean, look, my birthday's in 2 days. If one of you guys out there can get me fucking spaghettified by a black hole, I will personally pay you with my gratitude and whatever money I can, scrape up. But mostly my gratitude.
Give him a whole $40 to get you to a black hole and spaghettified.
Yep.
Make you into a nice carbonara.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I want to be spaghettified for the 21st, dude. I don't want to be on Earth on my actual birthday. I want to be spaghettified in a black hole.
I don't know, man. Spaghettification's pretty sweet.
Well, it's also extremely, extremely... You don't know what's happening to you when you become spaghettified. Or at least that's what a theory is when you get sucked into a black hole. You don't really know what's happening. Your body's just like... it's pretty interesting.
Do you want some pretty cool fact? Did you know that in a black hole, time would affect you differently due to the mass amount of gravity?
I think a lot of things would be at play.
Well, yeah, of course.
Last thing I'd be worrying about is time.
I don't know, man.
Time's
relative.
I mean, time's relative. Not when you're getting spaghettified into a black hole. Pretty sure you die after you get spaghettified.
I mean, it pulls apart your atoms.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if that would hurt. I mean, maybe. You're getting pulled apart atom by atom, and I don't think you can feel your individual atoms. So, if you've ever seen The Avengers, the second to last movie.
I don't think anybody's seen those.
No, what was the name of the second to last Avengers movie before Endgame?
The second to last?
Yeah.
Before Endgame? Oh my god, so many people are like, you
Infinity
fucking
War.
retard. Yeah, the
In Infinity War,
yeah.
when when Thanos snaps, everybody turns to dust. I imagine that's kind of how a black hole would be.
Half of the people.
Right, half the people, not everybody. But I imagine that's how going into a black hole would be. You know, you're getting tossed around, pulled apart atom by atom, and you're like, oh fuck, there's this massive amount of gravity here. What's gonna happen to me? And then you find out, you know, and you're like, oh shit, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. You know.
I don't feel good, Mr. Stark. I don't look. If I was in that scenario, I think it'd be a lot cooler to just be turned into dust than being spaghettified by a black hole.
I don't know, man. I'd be happy being the first human to die in a black hole. Let me tell you.
I mean,
If NASA's ever looking for a guy who's ready for a suicide mission, then I'm definitely your dude, you know?
I can see you being that dude.
You can see me being that
I
dude.
can see you being that dude.
Just throw my ass into the rings of Saturn. And let's see what happens.
That would be you would probably only last for like a split second before raining diamonds kills you, or you basically won't be able to breathe. You're just gonna hear a scary fucking screech, which is Saturn in itself, and then you're just gonna die.
Well, yeah, you're talking about the sound they got from the solar winds hitting the surface, creating radio waves or something like that.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they've done that for every planet, including our own. But yeah, it's that's an interesting concept.
It is an interesting concept.
Do you know what's funny? So earlier, I brought up the Avengers, and there was, like how Robert Downey Jr. plays Iron Man, Tom Holland plays Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So if you've ever seen the Back to the Future movies, they're classics, but somebody went through and used a deep fake program
not synthetic media.
They used a deep fake program on it, and they swapped Doc Brown's face with Robert Downey Jr.'s, and they swapped Marty McFly's face with Tom Holland. Now, their facial features already kind of match up with the actors. It doesn't look that odd.
Yeah. And for anybody who's retarded and doesn't know, excuse my language, deep fakes are basically, they've been around for a long time, but with artificial intelligence increasing, deep fakes have become very, very hard to tell what's actually fake and what's actually real.
Well, when you can use an AI algorithm to completely monitor the way the face is and the way the stuff moves, then you can really get into the deepfake territory. But as of right now, there's an AI program that can spot deepfakes with about 90% accuracy, I believe. But that's not going to be viable forever.
Well, it's just weird. Even the government's taking measures to see how far we can go with deepfakes.
Well, of course.
Because you can create a full-on deepfake of somebody and be like, holy shit, that's Robert Downey Jr. shooting a midget or something really.
Yeah, why is Robert Downey Jr. such a big person to use for deepfakes?
He's a handsome guy.
I know.
He's Robert Downey Jr. What else?
Joe Rogan's been hit with a few deepfake algorithms.
And he's Joe Rogan. That makes sense. He has an interesting audience. One half of the audience is just right-wingers, and the other half of the audience is straight up just crack fiends, and a small percentage of happy people like us. I mean, not happy, but happy people.
Yeah, I think happy is the wrong word there, Chief.
Happy people.
Well, I know with Joe Rogan, one of the reasons that he was hit with a deepfake, they used some of the audio, well, actually a lot of the audio that he's created, to make a fake voice. And, well, because he has thousands of episodes, all over an hour long, you get an algorithm, go through that, isolate Joe Rogan's voice, and then you can chop it up into pretty much whatever you want. And then they used it to, I'm sure you've seen the video.
Yeah.
He's talking about buying a hockey team of chimps, feeding him nothing
Joe
but
Rogan
bone broth and elk
Rogan.
meat.
Yeah. That sounds like a good old fucking
That just sounds like something Joe Rogan would do in general.
I mean, like I said, Joe Rogan's an interesting guy. But what he's really doing right now at 1:34, he's probably swinging kettlebells right now, or he's on a podcast. It's the two things I can picture him doing right now.
Or eating elk meat or jalapenos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. He does all sorts of interesting stuff. But, like Fear Factor, for example.
Oh, man.
We went back and we started watching a few Fear Factor episodes on Hulu. And my God, man, some of the shit they do on that show, it's just horrid. They made these people dive into like 3,000 gallons of bovine blood to pick out cow hearts and then throw them into a bucket with their teeth. And it's just like, why?
Yeah, a viewer actually won a $2.5 million settlement because he threw up. He was sitting on his couch and he was watching that episode where the twins had to fucking eat a blended rat, like
Yes.
a full-on blended rat, and he got nauseous and threw up. So he made a full-on complaint to Fear Factor, filed a fucking lawsuit, and won $2.5 million.
That's a lot of money, let me tell you.
That's a lot of money for sitting back and throwing up watching TV. Where's my fucking $2.5 million? I've watched a lot worse shit than that. A lot worse. I don't want to bring up what, but I've seen a lot like worse things on the internet than a video of fucking, yeah, I'm on Fear Factor drinking a rat. I'll drink that rat for $2.5 million.
I do a lot of things for $2.5 million, let me tell
sure,
you.
Alex, I'm sure you would do a lot of things for $2.5 million.
Use my body as a heroin suitcase. Stored in my veins.
That's basically just, drug fucking mule.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, you're basically just becoming a drug mule. Nice. I can see that coming from you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, helping the cartel secretly.
Mm.
Building up through the ranks of time.
Nah, I'm just a humble guy trying to get into podcasting.
There's a lot of things we need to do. We still need to watch Parasite.
Yeah, I've heard good things about
4
Parasite.
Academy Awards. 4. People were fucking livid, but I heard by so many people that it's a great movie.
I heard that it was the #1 movie in Korea for like 4 years or something like that. I don't remember exactly how the article went, but I read it, and it was like this. It was like a big thing because it was big in Korea.
Yeah. But it's funny seeing all the people who are like, Joker's so much better. Shut the fuck up, you drog.
All the people getting upset that Parasite
cares?
won. It's kind of
Look,
ridiculous.
The Joker was an amazing movie. But you shouldn't be that worked up about who won and who didn't win a goddamn award. Like, come on. Plus, they deserved it. It's not like that they didn't deserve it. Like, people were, like, pissed off and raving about it, and, like, their penises are falling off because their precious little Joker didn't win. But, let me tell you, Parasite, I feel like it was worth the win. I didn't even see it. I just saw, like, 2 clips of it, and I was like, yep, this is better than the Joker. And I thought Joaquin was fucking amazing, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That ignited a spark in young Caucasian minds that shouldn't have been sparked.
Yes, the outraged incel violence.
Mm-hmm. The Joker, or also known as the Joker meme.
Do you remember how fucking worked up the media got when Joker came out? And it was like, it's promoting incel violence.
Yeah, because at first I thought that was a joke, but now you look at it, and there's fucking videos of, like, impubescent, really, really pale kids painting their face, and they're like, is this a joke to you? Huh? And I'm like, what the fuck are these kids doing? And then they think it's, like, okay to beat the shit out of women and be like, this is a society. I'm the Joker. Like, no, you have a serious mental disease, and you need it to be cured. No more watching Joker for you, incel. No more.
Can we find a cure for incelism, please?
I want to look that up.
Incelism?
Dude, that's almost worse than doing the dishes and touching a piece of wet food. In fact, that's so much worse. That affects my brain so much worse than doing dishes and touching a piece of wet food. Because at least then, you can flush it down the drain. You can't flush a full-on fucking incandescent Joker lover down the drain. All you can do is commit a felony. And that's about it. That's about it. That's the only way you can try to deal with fucking those guys.
But dude, I just remember how worked up everybody got. You know, like, the media was like, oh, it's going to be like a repeat of what happened with Batman and shit. And
it sparked an incel controversy because of its hopeless hollow.
Yeah.
Like, it actually had a real message that you could have, like, stood by and defended. Oh, this is a good message that a movie has. But incel white men turned it into this weird fucking, like, debate about what's, like, good for humanity and violence, and it becomes really weird when people take a movie that seriously.
I don't think it helped that, like, you had everything on Reddit prior to it, like the whole we live in a society and, like, gang weed and all that shit, because it already kind of had that, like, I don't want to say group, because a lot of it was, like, ironic, and a lot of it was simply to be funny, but, you know, when you're being ironic and funny, a lot of fucked up people follow suit. It's like a lot of what's happened on 4chan in the past, you know?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's weird because at the end of the movie, like, there's that thing about, like, the rich getting richer and shit.
Yeah.
And, Arthur, who plays Joaquin, who plays Arthur, the fucking Joker, basically started this movement accidentally in rich white frat boys and white incels. And it's very strange. There's a vague mush of right-wing and left-wing talking points that basically has just become, like, out of control. But now it's February, so everyone's just like, it's cold. No one's talking.
It's cold. Yeah, the coldness is, it's a real problem here. You know? I kind of enjoy the cold, you know? I'd take it over the heat any day of the week.
We know, Mr. Window Open 24/7 all
Hell
year
yeah,
round.
Man.
My mom said that her friend does that. I can't believe that shit. You're gonna wake up with, like, pneumonia or something, and you're gonna be like, oh, I ain't cold. It's cold, boy.
Oh, I'll be
it's
fine.
Fucking cold.
I won't get hypothermia.
You won't get
right.
hypothermia, but, you never know,
If I keep it shut, I might get hypothermia, but...
Just stay warm, okay?
Of course I stay warm. I got a little bit of extra body fat on me, so... I tend to radiate heat relatively well.
As much as a Joker incel?
Yeah, probably. Other than the mentality of them, I'd agree I'm on par with the Joker incels.
People learn 33% faster.
Oh, yeah, so...
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. They did a study where they studied the brains of trained pilots, and they studied the electrical impulses and, like, the charges in their brains, and then they replicated them, and then sent those same impulses into the brains of people who were trying to learn how to fly through a realistic flight simulator. And they learned 33% faster than the placebo group.
I mean, with electric stimulation.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Placebos are placebos.
Right, well, like, the placebo didn't do shit, but,
well,
like...
yeah. I mean, electric stimulation. Your entire brain is sending neurons and electricity back and forth.
Right, well, that was kind of the idea of it. The idea of it was that the trained pilots had the neuroplasty of already knowing that skill, because it's, it becomes muscle memory, Yeah. So you know how to utilize your muscles when doing that skill. So obviously the electrical impulses in your brain wouldn't be as, like, I don't want to say panicky, but they'd be more well developed and more, like, straight to the point.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, and I think that's kind of an interesting idea, because we've had the idea of being able to implant ideas and, like, memories and even skills into people's heads, but for the most part, I feel like we haven't really messed with that a whole lot.
Basically, because I'm not, I'm not very in-depth on this topic, but people learn faster with synced brainwaves. So, like, electrical stimulation, if they can get it to, a synced brainwave, can reversibly increase or decrease and execute, like, function in healthy people's brains,
right,
which is pretty interesting. It can also change their behavior with electric waves.
How fucked up would it be if in, like, I don't know, 30, 40 years, we have a bunch of kids in school with, like, helmets on, they're just shocking the shit out of their brains so that they learn better?
Hold the phone. This report says students are zapping their brains to get ahead in school.
See, I called it.
Holy shit. This university is freaking out because they have almost doubled people's learning rates. And it's the electrical stimulation. I feel like that's a lot better for a student than going home, being up an entire, like, day doing a project and then being like, I'm going to take a fucking Adderall just to stay awake. That's a lot better. I feel like electrical stimulation is a lot healthier for students than that.
What, you're telling me zapping your brain is better than amphetamines?
To me, yeah. To me, if it's fucking small electric waves that increases their brain movement and increases their neurons firing off, fuck yeah, that's a lot better than taking a pill to make them stay awake.
Well, that was also initially an idea with with this guy. I don't remember his name, but he was the first person to really mess with electrical stimulation in the brain. And he got this person to do he got him to do like this underground surgery sort of thing where he implanted these discs in his head that would fire, or not like fire, but like they would like, shoot a charge.
Yeah.
And it fucked him up. Like, it didn't like help him learn or anything. It just fucked him up.
He probably did something that he shouldn't have. It
Well, of
probably
course.
wasn't actually like waves that were directed to match the brain waves. He probably just shocked himself in the head and was like, "Ugh!" Like, you're gonna fry yourself.
Right, but yeah, it wasn't as well developed as it is now.
Yeah.
But
But he tried.
He was just kind of like, hey, if I electrocute
Look, man,
my brain, maybe.
If there's one person whose luck, you could say that luck's real, it's that one guy who was walking on a fucking railway when he was working on the railroad, stepped on the fucking bar that went all the way through his skull, and he just survived.
Yep.
All that happened is he had mediocre behavior changes, got really angry a few times, and died.
Yeah, he got really bad anger issues
Yeah.
from that. That's what I heard. Then there was also the dude who was working on the particle accelerator when he found like a hole in the wall or something like that, and then the particle came flying out and just shot right through his head. So he basically got like a fucking laser beam shot through his head.
Jesus Christ.
And yeah, he survived. There's also the story of the guy who woke up complaining of head pain. So he went to the hospital, and he had a bullet in his head. His wife shot him in his sleep. And he was just like, oh fuck, I thought I had a headache.
Jesus Christ. My lord, that's okay. Yeah, I wasn't expecting you just... Yeah, you just shot him in the head.
Yeah, his wife just shot him in the head, thinking he died, but he woke
Look,
up
man.
with a headache.
This is pretty bad. I think I've told you this one. The gynecologist of Reddit.
Oh god.
Oh god, look. For anybody listening, be prepared to feel sick, okay? On that note of things happening to people, you want to hear something really bad that happened to somebody?
Already.
So, gynecologist of Reddit. This guy, Science Guy Jim, comments, "This is not vaginal, but boobs. Also, so almost as bad." And he says, "When I was a high school student, I was doing a rotation in the ER as a student in HOSA. A very large woman came in with extreme chest pains. While trying to get the pads on, the smell was intense. They decided to try to clean her up and went to put a pad under one of her breasts. And when they lifted it, the smell knocked them back. There was a discolored scab, and when the doctor washed at it, it came off and roaches started flowing out of the hole under her body from her breast." You may be asking yourself, how the hell does that even happen to somebody? Well, apparently, an egg had been laid in the fold of her skin, right under la teat. And when they hatched, they just started eating away into her, just like a nuisance. They just wanted schmeat. Like, as disgusting as that is, how the hell do you get a roach laying eggs on your titty?
I don't know, and I don't think I want to know.
I didn't want to know either, but it's an interesting fact about human life, I guess.
See, I would bring up the swamps of Dagobah, but I don't feel like reading like 20 paragraphs
What about
right now.
China starting the new zombie apocalypse? No, I'm kidding. That's fucked up.
Now, if you want to hear a funny Reddit story that's not absolutely disgusting, this guy, right? For whatever reason, this guy and his family, they take huge shits, right? Huge turds. It's fucking hilarious.
Oh, God.
So his family had what he called a poop knife.
Forgot about this.
So one day, I think he went over to like his girlfriend's house or something, took this massive shit, and he was like, "Hey, I have this log in this toilet." So he was like, "Hey, where's your poop knife?" And she's like, "What the fuck is a poop knife?" He didn't realize it wasn't a normal thing until he was an adult.
And I think it's hilarious that later on, his wife used his old school poop knife for cooking or something. Like she was checking her tongue or something with that wooden stick, because it was like a dentist, like those wooden dentist sticks. And he was like, "No, honey, no, that's my poop knife."
I didn't
And
read
she was
that
like,
part.
"Poop knife." It was a completely different story to that thread.
Do I think it's kind of interesting though? The fact that you can get so used to things that you don't even notice that they're not normal.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's happening right now.
Oh?
Yeah.
Is there anything in your life that you didn't realize wasn't normal until you were older?
I didn't realize it was normal until I got older.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hard one, buddy.
That is a
I don't
hard
really
one. I don't
have
think
any.
I can answer it either.
I don't really. My parents kind of just taught me right from wrong at a
That's
young
fair.
age, so I kind of just like had an idea of what I shouldn't and shouldn't be doing. But I had this thing where I'd basically hump the floor in public until I was old enough to realize, oh yeah, you don't do that.
Until I was like 8 or 9, I would come home and then get completely naked.
I thought you were about to say entirely something else, but that's just as bad.
Yeah,
When you're 9?
Well, yeah, until I was about 9.
Oh, okay.
I would come home from school, take off all my
Yeah,
clothes.
I
except for
remember being a
underwear, and hang
naked
out.
kid, but I wouldn't just like do it purposefully. I would just
Yeah.
be naked.
Nope, take off all my clothes.
That's interesting, man.
Yeah, I don't know why I did it, but
So politic.
oh,
God.
so
no.
we're getting into the politics section. Now, can we talk about the Sonic movie since we're on the topic of politics here?
The Sonic movement.
The Sonic movie.
Oh, well, that's still a
It-
movement.
It's a movement?
There's an entire movement about it. There's a little thread called the Sonic movement, and it's about the movie. Sonic had a fucking $70 million debut and a $95 million cost.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. I mean, I compared it to Detective Pikachu.
Detective Pikachu had 150 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was that its cost or is that what it made?
That was its. I think that's its cost. Yeah, that was its cost.
Yeah, and then it made
Well over triple that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Could Sonic follow suit? We shall never know.
its budget was 150 million, and then its box office. The box office, when you Google it, it kind of like stops at a specific
Look,
point.
man.
But it says 431 million dollars.
I
So
think
they
it's
well over doubled their money, almost tripled. it.
Hilarious that a bunch of people bullied a company into changing it. Cyberbullied, in fact, their company into changing the entire movie just so Sonic looked right. Just so Sonic looked.
But I think it makes sense though.
It makes perfect sense, and I'm glad they didn't. If it didn't, this movie would be more than a 6.9 out of 10, or less than a 6.9 out of 10.
Yeah.
It'd be like a fucking 4.
Well, I think the important thing was though, and I think the company probably actually appreciates it.
Jim Carrey being in the movie.
Because
Sorry.
he plays fucking what, Dr. Eggman, right?
Yeah, it's all that matters to me.
But I think the fact that the fan base spoke out gave the company making it, was it Sony? Was it a Sony movie?
I don't know.
You don't know? But it gave them an advantage because it was a lot of free publicity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a ton of free publicity.
And it also gave them the idea that, like, hey, nobody's going to see this movie if you do it this way. You know? So if you want to have a good box office debut, you better drop more money.
Yeah, Sonic opens to $70 million 2 days ago when it's rising, so that they're opening.
Yeah.
They're not doing bad.
No, they're not doing bad at
Their
all.
budget was $95 million, though.
I think releasing it on Valentine's Day was kind of an odd idea, though.
I think they thought that a lot of couples would be like going out to watch movies, and they'd be like, oh, and I thought that would be a really smart thing, because a lot of people on Valentine's Day, especially like the dudes who don't have like the brokes, but they would still want to take their gal somewhere, and they're just like, I don't know where to go. Let's go to a fucking movie. So then they went to go watch Sonic, and it actually ended up working out for them.
I don't know. I don't know why it feels odd, but it just feels odd.
It
to me.
feels odd that they only made $70 million in Rising, but they spent $95 million to make the movie.
Right. Well, that was just their debut.
Yeah,
though.
I know.
They're
It's
gonna
just,
keep making more.
it's still sad. I'm sorry.
Well-
look at Joker's debut compared to
right,
Sonic
but
the Hedgehog.
but Joker is a comic book movie. You know what I mean? And with comic book movies,
I
you're
mean,
always gonna gross a fuck ton of
They
money.
weren't even trying to do a full-on. They just turned it into an incel raging.
Somehow we got back to Joker.
It was a good movie.
I think
Okay.
we're going the wrong direction here.
Yeah. Don't bring up Joker. You'll spark something in my head you don't want
Oh,
to spark.
God.
Okay.
It's a threat.
But yeah, dude, I think the Sonic redesign is the entirety of why it is doing what it's doing. Like, it's doing okay, and all the other cast members agree. Even Jim Carrey was like, "Oh yeah, this movie would have been poop if we didn't do that."
Yeah, the redesign was easily the smartest
He
decision
made
they
the trailer good.
Yeah.
I heard Doolittle was shit.
Oh, that was the like Doctor Dolittle
Yeah.
remake, right?
Yeah, the Doctor Doolittle with
Was it a remake or was it like a sequel?
It's a straight up. It's just called Doolittle with Robert Downey Jr. I think
Right,
it's a
yeah.
remake because the original one, completely different guy.
Yeah.
But look, man, I like Robert Downey Jr., but him with trying to do a British accent that's not in Sherlock, it looked like he was just on an extreme ketamine binge looking for animals. That's what it was like.
I'm not even gonna lie. I heard about Doolittle like once or twice, and then I never thought about it again.
Holy shit, that $175 million budget.
Jesus Christ.
How much did they make?
I don't know. I'm guessing maybe good money?
They earned only $30 million in 5 days of domestic release, and they had a budget of 175.
Wow, that's rough, bud.
That is very rough. Wow, Robert Downey Jr., you got a big paycheck though. I love you. Good job.
Robert Downey Jr. always gets a big paycheck. That's what you get for being a big
When
name
you look
actor.
up forums on Sonic the Hedgehog, so you can talk about it on the cast, but you end up getting Sonic the Drive-In.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah, let's talk about that ocean water, shall we?
Okay. Speaking of ocean water, they have the Sonic Blast. They have all kinds of shit, man.
It's true. I used to buy their, when I was a little bit younger, I used to get, like, their energy drinks. They were delicious, but, they'll kill you.
They will kill you.
Let me tell you, they'll kill you. You
They
get this
will.
big fucking Route 44, like, slushy of pure energy drink, and you're like, wow, I'm going to die after drinking this entire thing. Like, I can drink an entire pot of coffee, and I'm like, alright, cool, I'm not too bad. But one of those, I'm like, I'm going to fucking die.
I don't know why this came up to my head while you were talking about energy drinks, but I was having, like, visuals of Batman flying through the sky. Who was your who was your favorite Batman actor? Mine's hands down Christian Bale. He
I
was
think
my
I'd agree.
Batman as a kid. Well, not as a kid, but like, when you're growing up and you watch Batman movies, all the other ones are like, eh. And then you see Christian Bale, and he's like, it was Batman voice. Can't do it, obviously. But he was a great Batman. Him and Heath Ledger were, I still think to this day, the best Batman and Joker. Joaquin was amazing.
Yeah.
But Heath Ledger was like, my guy.
Well, who's playing Batman now? Is it Ben Affleck?
No, he quit.
Did
Ben
he quit?
Affleck got fat, and they're like, nah, so it's Robert Pattinson, the guy from Twilight.
Really?
The vampire guy from
Seriously?
Twilight. Yes, it's Robert Pattinson.
What the fuck? I had no clue.
He doesn't look bad. Have you not seen all the fucking
No.
clips about Robert Pattinson's the new fucking Batman? Woo! Yeah, it's basically just a whole fucking thing. He doesn't look bad at it, but when I see him, I think of him going, crying in Twilight.
I guess it makes sense, though,
No, it does not
Vampire,
make sense.
bats,
No.
Batman.
No, don't ruin Batman for me. His new suit even looks fucking dumb. They made the nose look like a fucking cloth. It's not even pointy. He looks like some
Really?
guy who just like killed the woman, took her skin, and put it on his face and called himself Batman.
Oh.
Yeah. Let me show you.
Pulling a Griffith, I guess.
I guess
With
so.
his curved bird mask.
He just looks retarded. He just looks
Yeah,
retarded.
man,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the R-bombs, people. But it needs to be dropped when something like this is happening. This is an outrage to society. Look at his nose. Look at that schnoz. Look what they did to my man's schnoz. They ruined Batman.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
I mean, I can see it,
I don't.
because, like, Batman, he's like
Alex,
a
just
billionaire
stop, please.
superhero.
I thought you were gonna do the same fucking comparison to a bat.
No.
That hurt me internally.
It makes sense because he played a vampire. No, I don't know. It's just.
Look, it
he
makes
doesn't-
sense, but his suit looks horrible.
Yeah, not a huge fan of the suit, but I think he could definitely fit the role.
He could
But
definitely fit the role.
For
but his
whatever
suit-
reason, I feel like it's going to be like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man.
his nose looks like my leather glove. That's what his nose looks like.
But I don't know. It's definitely an interesting idea.
I
I
think
wouldn't have
he's a
guessed.
lot better than Ben Affleck's ass. My God, that was like watching a tumor on film, talking, and really trying to be a good actor. Really, really trying. The man had to wear a fucking 20-pound layer metal suit over his body just so he looked muscular. Because he didn't want to go to the gym for Batman. He got super ripped for the first Batman, and the second Batman, he's like, nah, I'll just wear a suit. Like, come on. That ain't fucking Batman. You're Ben Affleck. You're Ben Affleck. You sound like
Affleck.
a fucking duck commercial.
Yep.
Like,
Affleck.
yeah, like, come on. Come on. I grew up watching Ben Affleck in horrible comedies, so seeing him being Batman is like the equivalency to just dying. I would rather die than watch Ben Affleck on screen again, talking to Superman's face and screaming. I would seriously rather have a horrific death and lose both my limbs and watch that ever again.
Now, do you know who I would really like to play Batman?
Oh no.
Elon Musk.
He doesn't even have the stamina. Take 2 jogs. I love Elon, but he'd take 2 jogs and he'd be
Nah,
like,
Elon's more fit for Iron Man.
no. He wasn't Iron Man, and Iron Man made him look like a bitch. I love Elon, but Jesus.
No, Elon Musk is just kind of like, he's got that crazy side to him, you know?
Elon has a lot.
He actually just launched some more of his Starlink satellites, 60 more, I believe, bringing it to a total of 300. Which, by the way, if you were unaware, those satellites are extremely problematic. Because there was a lot of reflective space debris up there already, and he's just adding more to it, and they're like 90% more reflective than they originally estimated. So you have these really fucking bright satellites. So there's like pictures of people taking pictures. There's pictures of them. And they're just like these really bright streaks in the sky because the way you get a clear picture of the sky is from long exposure shots. So there's just this like really bright streak. And he's going to put 800, I think he said 800 in orbit so that you can have complete coverage of the Earth. And it's not that I don't support it because I think it's definitely an interesting feat.
There's just too much stuff, man.
It's just a lot of shit to put in orbit.
It's funny when people are like, satellites run the world. No, dog. You know, majority of our internet, like, or all of our internet, is in underground or underwater tunnels that spans across the entire ocean.
Yep.
My homie didn't believe me when I showed
optics.
him, and he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, they span across the entire ocean. When I say they span across the entire ocean, they go all the way from one ocean to the other side of the ocean, and they're just underwater cables. Yep. That's why Vietnam, their entire fucking country's like Wi-Fi went down when that piece disconnected from Hong Kong. It's like, dog, that's insane to me. I like, obviously satellites are a huge like importance. GPS,
and they're faster too.
And they're faster, but they're not as cool as underwater tunnels that's passing internet across the globe.
I mean, what if I put it like this? You have a box with a laser beam on it.
Let me just put it like this. Space is easier to get to. That's my final answer.
I don't know. I still think it's an interesting feat because you're using laser beams instead of fiber optics. So with fiber optics, you're just carrying the light. But with laser beams, not only is it faster because it's the speed of light in a vacuum versus the speed of light in a medium, which is glass.
Ain't that cool, though?
It's just really cool, you know, because you have to, like, line up the trajectory and you have to hit a small target so you can beam this information.
You also have to make sure you can fly through garbage in space so your entire shit doesn't break down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little dumb. Just a tad bit. Maybe we should start cleaning that up.
We have ideas.
Yeah.
I know we came up with an idea for pretty much like a space drone, like a satellite with a harpoon.
Jesus Christ, that doesn't sound dangerous at all. My God.
Just imagine being the guy tasked with shooting space junk out of the sky.
Yeah, what if you accidentally shoot the fucking International Space Station? Like, oh, sorry, Bob, I shot the walls. You're all gonna die. They all fly out of it.
Just know what you're taking your shot at, I guess.
This is NASA we're talking about. Underfunded.
Well, they're going back to the moon, and that's exciting.
Woohoo! Yeah.
But there's a lot of things you can do on the moon, though.
I guess.
I mean, you get good resources up there, you know.
Leave the moon alone. Stop touching the moon. Let people go to the moon. Don't eat the moon.
No, we need the moon.
We don't need its materials.
Well,
literally don't need its materials.
That's not true.
We don't. It's a clay rock with a few iron deposits and a few other things.
There's a lot of silicate.
Yeah, I know. But
there's
it's
like... plus the moon has a large deposit of helium-3, I believe it is.
Add more craters into it.
I mean, dude, it's a relatively large object.
It's a relatively large object that's not that hard to go around.
Right, but there's a few good reasons to use it. Like I said, I believe it's helium-3, which is used in thorium reactors, so it's cleaner. It's like cleaner radioactive energy. That's nuclear. Duh. It's cleaner nuclear energy, so if you have to purge it, then you can just it and it's not that bad.
They already have plans to mine the moon in 2025.
Well, do you know what else makes it cool, though? because of its water deposits, it's basically just a big gas station.
Well, no,
we have in our orbit.
they're extracting waste-free nuclear energy.
Yeah, that's
worth
what.
trillions of dollars.
Yep, helium-3 and thorium reactors.
The machine that they're going to need for it is going to create a bigger crater than the natural craters already on there. Wow,
Hell yeah.
thanks, science. That's not going to make our moon look absolutely disgusting. That's the thing I love about humanity, is that if we do like achieve space travel, we'll just rip apart everything in our fucking path. And then if there's another species, it'll be like, look at these fucking disgusting ant-like fucking beings using fucking liquid engines and fuel to launch themselves. That's so dangerous. Why not just use gravity welds? I know that makes no sense whatsoever, but I feel like if there were aliens to stumble upon us, they'd think we were very, very unintelligent.
Well, I know that, well, it kind of also, well, okay. If aliens did come to us, absolutely, they would think we're a bunch of idiots. But you gotta start somewhere, you know? Because if they got to us, they would have to have really fucking fast travel.
There's a huge
or
difference
long lifespans
between starting something and actually starting something correctly.
Okay.
What I'm getting at is that I feel like humans are really just cocky. I feel like we kind of take everything for granted. Like the fact that we're about to go mine a fucking rock in our sky that controls our entire tide. Like that's just, I mean, obviously we won't get rid of the moon. I mean, I can see them fighting over the moon actually.
It's just nuke the moon. Nuke the moon.
Kim Jong-un steals the moon.
Kim Jong-un steals moon.
But I don't know. Where they turn the moon into a fucking ship.
I think the fact that we landed on the moon over 50 years ago, actually over 60 years ago at this point, right? 60 years?
Hey, thank funds. Funds. NASA had many more plans to go back to the moon.
But
thank your government, buddy.
But think about it, though. 60 years ago, we went on the moon. And then, like, 60 years before
60 years ago, we went on the moon. And the FBI tried to add clips of fake. That's a weird thing about it, is that you can actually see the real differences of the recordings of when they're actually on the moon and the ones that they added to try to make it seem like more they were on the moon. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, that's an actual thing?
Uh-uh.
You have no idea what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with it.
You don't know anything about when people believe they faked the moon landing?
Well, I know people think they faked the moon landing.
Well, there's actual evidence of cameras in some of the fucking, like, clips in their masks. Well, the CIA, or not CIA, whatever the fuck they're called, confirmed not too long ago that they tried to add, like, actual clips to influence the public that they were on the moon, because the actual clips of them on the moon didn't look realistic enough because it was so dark.
Huh.
So they tried to fake it by going into a fucking theater. At least that's just what I heard.
I've heard the theory.
That's skepticism, but
I actually do think I know what you're kind of talking about. I know there was a theory that there was a lot of damage tape because of the radiation.
It was basically NASA. It cost more for them to try to fake the footage than it did for them to actually go up to the moon at that time period. And the only reason there was rumors of them trying to fake the footage is because the actual footage of them on the moon didn't look like they were on the moon. They were worried people wouldn't believe them because it was so fucking dark and they're just hopping across the actual moon.
What I think is funny is when they got there, when they were messing around with transportation method isn't the right word I'm looking for, but like different ways of moving on foot on the moon. They tried like bunny hopping, they tried like skipping and just normally walking, and I think they settled on like little hops.
Oh, wow. So like, also this little about back to the moon. It's gonna be like a $4 billion industry. The moon itself.
Yeah.
But the whole thing about it is like there's the Colorado School of Mines in Golden. They're part of that project.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're also doing the thing for mining asteroids, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, they had like an asteroid mining program, which is also a really big thing because there's a lot of asteroids out there. I think I read a thing and it was like there's well over.
The moon gets hit every day.
Yeah,
by hundreds.
Well, that's one of the issues of living on the moon. But I think I read this somewhere. It was like there's well over 1 billion objects in space with more than a mile of surface area.
They're not even concerned about the natural elements. Their biggest like worry right now is the legal issues of frontiering in space and figuring out laws in space. That's what they're like legitimately terrified about. And that to me is scary.
Well, I know one of the big questions is who gets to claim it.
Who gets to fucking develop the consensus of what's going on here? Obviously, the U.S. is going to try to get there first
Of
and
course.
claim it.
And then
But
do you think other countries will also build settlements away from
oh
us?
yeah, I mean
But-
that's life.
But I think we're going to have the benefit because if we do absolutely colonize it first...
It's just the same old conundrum, dude. It's kind of shitty that it's going to be one of those weird races. Why can't the globe just like unite and just be like, hey, let's live on the moon? No, they're going to be like, give me my fuel, and
Well,
then
it's 'cause
kill each
people
other.
suck.
People suck. Yeah.
It's because people suck. I agree. I wish that we could just all do it unified and just be like, all right, cool, let's pool some money together, go to the moon. But America's going to want to get there
There's also
first
water
because
on
it
the
doesn't
moon.
work like that. Yeah, that's why I said it was a bona fide gas station.
Yeah.
You use fission
It's a lot of things on the
to
moon,
hit
I
that
guess.
water, and then you get hydrogen and oxygen. Boom, rocket fuel.
But
you know?
yeah, the biggest and obviously most immediate application for this is the lunar water and rocket propellant.
Yep.
The main component, hydrogen, oxygen. They're literally just gonna use the moon as a fucking base for propellant.
And plus, the moon's easier to live on than Mars.
They plan on getting there in 2025. Well, yeah, the Mars there's no atmosphere. I mean, there's no atmosphere on
Well,
the
there's
moon
an
either.
atmosphere, but it's
Okay, but
terrible.
you want to call that an atmosphere? You
mean,
step
it's
in
still
that
an
atmosphere
atmosphere.
and you get melted. That ain't no atmosphere. An atmosphere is supposed to protect you from radioactivity.
Yeah.
That very thin atmosphere,
Well,
quotations.
it's not the atmosphere that protects you from radioactivity. It's the magnetic
atmosphere.
field of the planet. And Mars is lacking because it doesn't
Atmosphere
have a
blocks
liquid core.
like 80% of sun radioactivity. Like the sun, like the UVs. Yeah, the electromagnets help a lot. But that's not blocking straight up like light that's going into the
Well,
earth.
right, but that's diffusion.
Yeah, there's many different kinds of radiation.
The radiation that hits our planet gets caught into our magnetosphere, and then that's why you have the northern lights, aurora borealis. But on Mars, it doesn't have a liquid core, so it doesn't have a very good magnetosphere, so it just gets fucking bombarded with radioactivity.
Because our atmosphere, like the actual like frontal like part of the atmosphere, blocks the the harmful high energy radiation like X-rays and gamma rays, and ultraviolet rays. But the atmosphere and the like electromagnetic pole absorbs it.
Okay.
Like it actually absorbs it. The atmosphere blocks it, but the electromagnetic like orifice of the Earth absorbs it. So they're both basically just working together.
Well, another big issue with living on Mars is that the soil is terrible. It's sticky, gets in the gears, locks shit up, and you don't want to breathe it because you'll
It's
fucking die.
radioactive.
So, Kurtzgat, I think that's his name. I think he's German, makes all the sciencey videos. He made a good video on not only inhabiting Mars, but also the moon. And it's just, I don't know, man. I think if we do live on Mars, it's not going to be how everybody thinks it is.
Yeah. Also, did you know Earth's ozone layer absorbs more radiation than Mars altogether?
Really.
Like 5 times as much.
I guess we are a lot closer.
We are a lot closer, but I'm like our ozone layer absorbs all of that and like combusts it, and that's where you're right. That's how you get the aurora borealis, whatever the fuck they call it.
Aurora borealis. But yeah, man, Mars is definitely an interesting one. Because I know they've been looking at the lava tubes, because that would be a good habitable place.
Imagine not having a stratosphere.
But I don't know, man. I could see us living in some lava tubes. You know?
Are you? No.
No?
We can't even look. We're having trouble even considering how we're going to breathe there. So
Well, I'm
first
not
we have
saying
to
right now.
actually, turn it into a place where we can actually like walk around more than 10 minutes
Well, if
before
you're in
melting
a
inside
suit.
of our suit. That's what I'm saying.
We
Walk
won't
around
melt.
for more. You can't survive on. You can survive on Mars without a suit for like a minute. You can survive on Mars with a suit for like 10 minutes. It's not easy to survive on Mars. You can't just sit on Mars and be like, I can be here for hours. No, you will die.
Well,
very,
of
very
course,
fast.
the atmosphere is made up of mostly nitrogen, and
Yeah.
it's fucking freezing cold.
Yeah,
But,
you'll
but-
you'll just die. Like
Yeah,
just
you'll
die.
die.
How
but-
long?
I mean, if you can set up a good base in a lava tube, I could see people living
Why
there.
does it have to be in a lava tube? That's fucking a lava tube. Why
Well-
not just dig a hole like a normal human
I mean, we
being?
could bore a hole, but that requires a lot more
And
equipment.
they'll probably end up doing that. I don't think humans are gonna be like, let's go live in
We're
an
already-
active lava tube that's
Well, not
active to
active.
blow up. All volcanoes are pretty much active on Mars.
I'm not saying go live in a volcano.
I know, but I'm saying pretty much every volcano that's on Mars is active.
There's a lot of volcanoes on
All
Mars.
of them
yes.
are active, pretty much. There's not one of them that's not like, hey, I'm just gonna
Well, at least there's a lot
subside
of
for a
mountains and
century.
such.
Yeah.
But no, we've been looking at lava tubes to live in because I mean, you know, if you can make it airtight, you know, you got your own hab there.
They're only worried about the surface, dog. I don't think they give a shit about tunneling inside of it.
Seriously, look it up.
I know. I mean, I know they've already considered. I'm literally reading about it right now, but I don't think they want to live in lava tubes, man. I feel like lava tubes is a little extreme. I mean, I can see that being something that we could do, but can you really picture humans living in a fucking lava tube?
Yes.
My God, man.
Well, I mean, if we live on the moon, we're probably going to be living underground as well. Kind of.
So
At least
compared
partially
to
underground.
Earth's 20%, Mars has a 0.1%, and an intense UV radiation with surface chemicals and oxidants. You would die within 1 to 5 minutes.
Oof.
If you had water, you can survive to 5 minutes because you're nutriting yourself. But that to me is insane.
But I think Mars has its benefits as well. Like living on Mars. Because that's really our foot in the door. I don't know how much more we're going to be able to live on outside of that. Cause,
So you mean like the remnants of like old, like before humanity was, there's huge remnants of like Martial lava tubes
Yeah.
that look like tunnels.
Yeah.
From before even humanity was alive.
They're just
I
massive
thought
tunnels.
you were talking about like the actual internal cores of the volcanoes that are on the. Okay,
No.
that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Basically, just caves.
Pretty much.
We become cavemen. That's,
And then we could
dude,
put up...
I'm not gonna lie. These fucking caves look absolutely terrifying.
they're fucking huge, too, dude. It's crazy.
No, these look absolutely terrifying.
And we want to go there look for life.
Well, they've been looking. I mean, they have.
Right. But they were
man.
doing research in our own, like, cooled down lava tubes and places like low on Earth
And
with
they
low
found
amounts of
weird life,
oxygen.
yeah.
They found weird life. So we have a better understanding of what we would be looking for if that be
Look,
the
I already
case.
know. I'm gonna say this now. There may not be life on Mars now, but there was life on Mars.
I think it's
There was
definitely a
life on
possibility.
Mars. There was life on Mars.
And that's why a lot of people are against Elon Musk on nuking Mars. Which I agree with. Don't nuke Mars.
Don't nuke Mars, but
And even then, it won't do
He
much.
probably has a better way of doing it than we think. But the thing with Mars is like, I don't know. There was you can't deny that there was at one point life. They have found evidence that streams. There was water streams,
Mm-hmm.
full-on water streams. Where there's water, I don't care who you are. Wherever there is water, no matter what, on any corner of the earth, there will be life in that water. There's
Right.
life in it. There's organisms, small organisms. Even when it's super cold, like in the Arctic, there's fucking ticks that live off of polar bears. Like to me, there's definitely was life at some point. Is there life now? I don't know, because there's clay and water and all that other shit up there. But I think there's a major possibility that there could be life in the volcano caverns if we're finding them in ours.
Yeah.
But who
Well, I
knows?
think there's also the thing to consider that we could find remnants of dead life in ice.
Yeah, we could find a lot of things. I mean, to me, that would be absolutely terrifying. Because then
Yeah.
you're just relinquishing diseases
Yep.
off of a corpse that you've never
It's
even.
been happening to us.
Yeah, it's been happening
Oof.
to us from.
Thanks, global warming.
Woohoo! That ice melting bee. Gotta love it.
But the interesting thing is, it's also not just like life on Mars. At one point, they believed there was the possibility of life on Venus before it had its runaway greenhouse effect.
a lot of things.
And I think it's all very possible. I think there is living life,
Look, man.
maybe even developed in our solar system.
Thing I really like, well, there's definitely life. It was when NASA talked about the major possibility, and I don't know if you know this, but the thing in our solar system that we know of that has the biggest possibility of having life is the moon Titan.
Yep,
Around
just about to
Jupiter.
bring that up.
Yeah, they have full-on methane lakes, like methane lakes on that moon. So, I don't know if you know this, but there are things that can live and swim in methane. So it's entirely possible, or plausible, I should say, that there are living organisms swimming in those giant methane lakes.
Right.
There could be, more than likely, they're very, very small organisms that don't have any real, like, development besides just being an instinctual organism.
Yeah, it's also the only known body in space other than Earth that has a stable atmosphere where clear evidence of stable bodies of surface liquid has been found.
Yep.
But I think our best bet to find life anywhere else in the galaxy, which, by the way, is absolutely out there, even if life is this extremely rare thing, you have 400 billion stars in our galaxy alone. So most of those stars are pretty bound to have some planets around them.
They taught us in
and
school.
we have a great idea of the Goldilocks zone.
Humans are from stars.
Well, yeah, we all
We're
come
made
from
out
stardust.
of the all basic mechanical, like the chemicals. But if you look at Titan, man, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty. I can see something living on that planet looks, or not planet, that moon. Sorry, looks like a fucking planet.
Well, what else I think is crazy is that if we want to look anywhere for life, a good place is ice, like ice moons and ice planets.
So you're straight up thinking of Enceladus, the entire moon covered by fresh and clean ice?
Yes, if it has a liquid core, that is. That was the planet I was trying to find.
Yeah.
If it has a liquid core, then the fact that the core can produce underwater ventilation units, kind of like what happens on Earth, you get chemical soup, and you can have miles of ice going down, but if it has a liquid core, it can have liquid
It's
next to the core.
the core of Issa.
Is it liquid?
No, but it absorbs. It has a huge influx of cold water from salty ocean that goes back and forth between the top of the poles.
Okay.
Water will go back and forth.
So then, okay, that's pretty interesting.
It has localized heating. The ocean
Perfect place
ice.
for life.
Look how thick the ocean ice is.
Yeah, it can be miles deep.
It is thicker than the planet's core.
Yep.
That to me is insane. This entire moon is ice. But the majority of this moon is water. So if we ever needed water, we would just carve. I mean, that would probably be some interesting water.
Maybe.
Because water's.
Can you imagine buying a bottle of space water?
Water from the moon Enceladus? I can't even pronounce that shit. I couldn't imagine how expensive that water would be. We would never be able to buy that
That's some rich
water.
guy shit. It's like
That's-
Voss
Alex,
water.
when I say this entire planet's ice, this thing is full on ice. Holy shit. 91%, its composition by volume is 91% water vapor.
Damn.
3.2% nitrogen and 1.7% carbon dioxide. The moon Mimos is basically a giant metal moon. That's pretty cool.
See, those are the good
interesting
ones.
moons.
Those are the good ones to go after.
Europa.
There's a lot of talk about mining mercury for metals, so we could build a Dyson swarm, which I fully support, by the way.
Jesus.
Don't even get me started on the Dyson
Dude,
swarm
Jupiter's
conversation.
moons are pretty terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. They're very weird moons. Like
I think it was
Europa.
what does it have, like 39 or something like that?
Europa has a liquid fucking core.
Yeah.
It has a water and ice crust and an iron nickel water core.
Huh.
That is very, very, very interesting. And it has a very thin atmosphere composed of 90% oxygen.
Really?
Composed primarily of oxygen, 90%.
I think it'd be a good place to look.
Europa, I mean, if it has a thin atmosphere where you
Thin
can
atmosphere,
breathe.
water and liquid core, why not?
It also has beneath the surface exists a giant water ocean that can harbor extraterrestrial life, depending on the temperatures.
Yep.
There's tidal flexing in that ocean that drives the liquid up through the tectonics of that moon. That's why there's a small, like, tiny pieces of ice on Europa. Because it's just basically the water ocean inside of it overflowing. To me, that kind of, I don't know, man, that blows my mind. Space is a very scary and interesting thing.
You have to kind of think about, like, new continents, like people from Europe and Spain coming over to the Americas. It's kind of like that, but a lot more.
Yeah.
Because we're far past that point. We're at a point where we have communication with just about every single country in the world. Every single part of the country, you could talk to probably just about any human being alive at any given moment. Isn't that kind of crazy to think about?
It is kind of crazy to think about.
So imagine when we're doing it on different planets. You know, we were talking about Starlink earlier. You know, and that's going to be an absolute necessity for interplanetary travel because you have to have that communication. Because to communicate to the moon, it takes, I don't remember what the delay rate is, but if you're using waves, it's a delay rate, right? But if you can use light, then you have a huge advantage. But that would also kind of include us having to put giant laser beams in space, which I fully endorse. But you know.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, I brought up mining mercury to build the Dyson swarm earlier. And if we could build a Dyson swarm and we could add giant lasers to that, you have infinite energy. Well, not infinite. You know, pretty damn close to infinite. You have infinite energy.
You just want to hollow out an entire planet?
Well, you don't have to hollow it out. I don't remember the exact number, but I mean, you wouldn't have to destroy the entire planet, but you could get plenty of resources for it. You know, but you get those giant laser beams, and then it's like, oh shit, Mars needs energy. You just shoot a giant satellite, and then that shoots energy down to Mars. And that has been a real possibility.
Yeah.
We thought about putting giant power satellites in space, and we might still do that because
Darth Vader, relax.
Yes, you can build the Death Star.
Relax.
That is absolutely possible.
Oh, I know, but that's a little retarded.
I don't know. It's pretty cool,
Excuse
man.
that R-bomb, but I don't want space wars going on, dog. We need peace in that frontier. But no, dude, the thing about Titan is what's really like. Okay, one. It has 5 primary layers. The innermost layer is like just a core of rock, water-bearing silicate rock, which just holds water. Surrounding that core is a huge shell of water and ice, a special type called ice VI that is only found at extremely high pressures. And the high pressure ice is surrounded by a thin layer of salty liquid water on its surface. So the surface, it'd be like walking on a giant ocean that's only like a few feet of thin ice. It's really creepy, or thin water. And then on top of which sits an outer crust on that ice. So there's even more water on top of water. And this surface is coated with organic molecules that have been rained on or otherwise settled out of the atmosphere in the form of sands and liquids. So there's a huge chance that there's like microscopic life on Titan.
I believe
booms of it. And with the formation of Titan, it's one of the oldest moons. They think it formed like right when the sun giant was starting to form, which to me just blows my mind.
Do you know anything's interesting about interplanetary life?
What's interesting?
I feel like a lot of people underappreciate it. You know, just the idea that life is out there. Because for a lot of people, I think it's mostly about like, hey, we're not alone. But it also gives us an idea of how common life is. But that's not the only thing. I want you to think about this for a second. If we found alien life and took a look at their genetics, how different could they be? I mean, it's very different.
I mean, it really, we don't know, dog.
Exactly.
We just don't know, because any planet has any material, and each planet has probably, this is the main material that's on this planet. Meaning, whatever is possibly living on that planet will be using that material. Which is like, when we use fossil fuels for fucking everything. That's what alien we are. We use liquid fucking, like the liquid of dead things to fuel ourselves and to build propulsion systems. Now, let's talk about the aliens that fucking Bob Lazar talked about, where they lived in the Zeta Galaxy, and that entire planet, what they know of, is made out of that weird E-liquid and rock. That's all they had on their fucking...
E-liquid?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking. It's called fucking gas E, or whatever the fuck it's called.
You're talking about Element 115.
Element 115. But,
which we have not been able to make stable yet, so...
the thing about, Element E is what he was calling it in the fucking video, is that like you said, we don't have any idea about it. But let's think about those aliens that lived on that planet their entire lives. They know everything about that. So they were able to build ships with it, or do what they're doing, basically what humans did, but with that material. So each alien could be completely different, have a completely different chemical composition, have a completely different lung system. We don't know.
Right. Well, of course we don't know.
It's going to be like us. We just don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, because I think as of right now, the way that our genetics work is the only way we know for life to work. So imagine how much of a interesting feat it would be to understand a completely different genetic code.
I don't think that. I don't know.
Because, like, right now we have the double helix, right? That's our DNA. That's built into us. That's what defines us. But what if it was, like, a triple helix, you know?
You're worried about helixes, dog. I'm worried about interplanetary war. I don't want that shit.
It's inevitable.
What if we find another helix, dog? Let's not get eaten by aliens. Or let's not eat the aliens.
Well, the thing is, you can't just consider one thing, though. You know, with something as big as interplanetary travel, there is so much to discover.
That's what I'm saying. So
You
when
know?
you consider one helix, you should consider a lot more than a helix.
Right, but think about it like this, though. Their genetics could be completely different than ours. And that is such a
who the fuck
fascinating thing.
cares? Well, we can find that out on our own. But I think we'd know if their genetics are different if they're from a completely different planet. That makes a lot of sense.
Right, well, like, the genetic code itself, but, like,
Yeah.
the way that it's structured. You know?
I would think it would be
I
different.
would think it would be different
if
as
it was
well.
on a completely different
But
planet.
if we found out that it's the same as ours,
then it just means they live in a planet that's very similar to ours.
kind of.
The way that you were born and the way that your genetic code it obviously dependent on your parents entirely. And that code actually being, doing what it's supposed to and not fucking up and be like, here's an extra chromosome for you. You know what I mean? So it's entirely dependent on that. But it also, like Earth, I don't know, it has a huge role on why we look the way we do and why we talk the way we do. Just gravity in itself.
Right, gravity,
We just
environment,
don't
food,
know.
stuff like that.
I don't think we'll know until we do it. I
Oh,
feel
of
like if a
course.
human was born on the moon, he'd probably be a completely different human than the humans born.
Well, I think they said people born on the moon would probably be taller.
Yeah.
Due to the lesser gravity.
Also, sorry, I have to go back to fucking Titan. But this is why I think if we were to find life, it would be there. One, NASA's confirmed that the surface of Titan, from what they found, is the most Earth-like in our solar system. Albeit, it has vastly colder temperatures and a completely different chemistry. But it gets to like negative to 179 degrees at some point. But Titan has a major volcanic activity, lava, like liquid water lava instead of molten rock. So it's liquid water lava. It's like a watered lava, and it doesn't actually, it's not like full-on molten rock. Can you imagine being, you're just chilling and a volcano erupts, and instead of lava, it's just hot water. That's basically what it is.
We have those underground.
Yeah, but
They're
this is
fucking
hot
cool.
silicate water. Titan's only water. And that just blows my mind. Also, Titan was formed at the same time, I already said this, but the disk of the gas and dust that formed the sun, that's what formed the nitrogen in Titan's atmosphere. So Titan's really fucking old. It's a building block of just chemicals and things. And like that, for example, like if humans lived on fucking Titan, they'd probably look vile compared to humans in general look vile, but they look a lot different, I would assume. They
Well,
look like humans, but they would have different body structures entirely.
I think that's going to be the interesting thing about living on different planets. Is that all the people on different planets are going to look different. You know, the same way that when we moved out
the
of
ones
Africa...
on Pluto are gonna look like trogs.
Well, I think we're going to turn Pluto into a giant ice prison.
Oh God,
Wouldn't
no.
surprise me.
If we could even get there.
I mean, we could get there eventually.
Hey man,
Not
NASA was
anytime
able
soon.
to turn on fucking what's it called?
Voyager
again?
2?
Yeah, that thing's so far.
Wait, was it Voyager 2 or was it Juno?
It was Voyager 2.
Okay. But yeah, man, that was like 1.5 billion miles from Earth or some
It's
shit like
so
that.
far and going so fast. I can't wait to see the pictures that finally get sent. That's gonna be insane.
It's funny, on Reddit there was a post talking about how they turned it on, and the top comment was like, what have we learned about deep space? And it's like, it's fucking empty.
Doesn't it kind of like blow your mind though that it's sooner or later those pictures are gonna get received
Yeah.
and get sent across all of that wide open space that we'll never ever see. Something that humans can't even physically get past. We can create things that can fly it, but humans getting to that point is going to be so difficult.
Yeah.
If we survive.
I think we can do it. I think we have a pretty good shot.
My head itches.
I think once we get to the moon and we settle on the moon, that's where everything changes. You know, it's a different playing
things will
field.
really change, like the Mass Effect games said, when Mars happens. That's what freaked me out about
playing Mass Effect because it was all like SpaceX helped pave the ways to finding technology on Mars and becoming the humans we are today. And I was like, what the fuck? Are they trying to just like... And this was in like 2015, before I even really knew who Elon was. So it's like they're really just trying to attain what the future's going to be.
It's all a guessing game.
Maybe BioWare was right somehow. Fucking BioWare.
They're the Simpsons of games.
Okay.
But no, man, I mean, once we get to the moon, that's like this massive milestone. You know, and that's already crazy enough. But you add the fact...
Imagine fucking not going to a place 50 years after you did it, and you had all that time just to, like, totally up yourself. I don't know, make technology better. Think about all the things you can do on the moon, but we weren't able to do any of that because we were underfunded. That's what's cool about society. Fucking America, everybody.
But yeah, man, I don't know. Like, it sucks that we haven't gone back, and I think we definitely should have gone back and tried to, you know, make it habitable. It's not a word, but like
they should have
colonize
found
it
out
earlier.
more things than they should have. Back then, it was the 60s. The fact they even made it there was amazing, of course. But they made it there and was like, oh, let's put our flag down and leave with a few samples. Well, those samples got fucking ruined.
Yep.
They got legitimately fucked
I think a guy stole them and fucked his girlfriend on top of him or something
just,
like that.
I don't know, man. Humans are...
But we're going back. That's the important part. We're going back to the moon. And then from there, we can go to Mars. Or we can...
Sorry if you hear that, folks.
That is
The
the
HVAC
heat.
unit.
That is the heat. So, sorry about that. But, you know, you have this big gas station that takes a lot less fuel to exit. You know, and you have materials there that you could just use to build rockets. You could even build a space elevator, you know?
Okay, now that sounds extremely dangerous. They've talked about space elevators, but in order to actually have a real space elevator that goes to space from Earth, it would have to have an interlocking thing that spins around the fucking Earth. Literally, it would have to spin, so literally you'd just be chilling and you'd see a fucking giant pole building fly by so fast you wouldn't even understand what's happening.
See, for Earth, I think it's a lot more realistic to expect space tethers. So you fly at a low, like a lower level, and then you get picked up by this tether and you get flung into space. So it can also slow down returning crafts to regain energy. So you can go in and out, you know?
That's
but
my response.
on the moon, you don't have the issue of like drag and our heavy gravity, so you could build a space elevator on the moon.
I can totally see that being a thing, but like I said, it's going to be rotating very fast.
Maybe.
It's going to be like an arm spinning. No, it will rotate with it. You can't not.
Well, yeah, it's going to rotate.
If it's
with,
locked with it,
I
it's
see
going to
what you mean.
rotate. But if it's like not, it's going to have to rotate like around it, like a greased up ball sack. I don't know how you'll be able to do that.
It's just a lot more likely on the moon than on Earth. I don't think we'll ever have a space elevator on Earth.
Well, the
like I said,
moon
tethers.
spins at a different rate. I can see us doing it on the moon, but what's the point?
What do you mean? What's the point?
Of a space elevator? Why would we need a
Saves
space
a lot
elevator?
of fuel.
Where would we? What would we use it for?
To go to other planets.
A space elevator.
Yes, because it saves fuel on takeoff. So if you can already get outside of the gravity well, which I mean you won't.
An
but you can
elevator
get-
that's not connected every portion of the way.
What do you mean?
That's how elevators work. They have to be like connected by a fucking line or pulled up or pulled to the side.
Right.
They're
You-
elevating. So
Right.
how are you gonna do that in fucking space when there's no like there's boundaries to things?
So
Unless you think you could just fucking launch yourself into a tube that's gonna send you all the way over there.
No. It brings you up to a higher level, so you can burn less fuel to get out of the gravity well. And that because I mean you already have the benefit of being able to refuel on the moon.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can go right to Mars. Now, the thing that would
guess.
make this extremely useful would be the commercialization of space. Because eventually you want to
I
commercialize
wish they
the
just
moon.
left behind mass relays up in space. Like in Mass Effect, where you just find mass relays and use them to launch yourself into another fucking side of the galaxy. That's what we need. Where's our fucking our relays, dog?
I don't know. Where are they?
Where's our relays, dog?
But, yeah, so once we colonize the moon, the next big step is commercialization.
Moon ASMR?
No.
Moon ASMR.
But once you have imports and exports, and you have a stable economy on the moon, a self-stabilizing economy, imagine those people breaking off from whoever owns them. Imagine the Americans on the moon being like, we're going to be our own thing from now on. You know what I mean? And that's the big thing.
I mean, dude, go for it. Kill me. I don't give a fuck. I know that really didn't make any sense, but kill me. Go ahead. That's what I would tell
Okay.
him. That's what I would tell him.
All right. Kill him. You heard him. You heard it here, folks. He's inviting to be murdered.
A lot of space, and it's a good space.
Lots of space. It was a good first podcast. We're at an hour 20 now.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, man.
That's not bad at all. It went by really fast.
It did go by really fast.
To any of the very depressing people listening to our insightful conversations of the Insightful Morons, I hope you enjoyed.
I do. We do hope you enjoyed this episode.
I do.
It do. It was a fun experience. We'll be doing it again next week. We plan on posting every Friday, but a promise only holds so much weight, right?
Yep.
So thank you guys for tuning in. It was a good first episode. It was nice conversing.
Yeah, it
with you,
was a good
Brandon.
conversation.
It
I'm
was a
glad
great
that me and you could
conversation.
talk down. Can you shake my hand?
I will shake your hand.
Shake my hand on podcast, just so
on the
they know.
podcast. They can't even see it.
I know they can't
it's
see it, but they know. They can feel our palms clanking together and slowly sliding and holding on to each other.
True.
Yep.
They're both pretty clammy for some reason.
Oh yeah.
So.
It's called sitting and doing a podcast for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yes.
But this was actually thoroughly enjoyable. I enjoyed it.
It was fun.
As you know, we like to talk about knowledgeable things, even though we aren't
Especially
the most
space.
knowledgeable subjects. But I like to think that we both have respectful views on certain subjects, even if they aren't 100% accurate. For example, me and him have to do some research, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing for us,
Yeah.
because we learn while talking about things on the podcast.
Well, plus it's a good way to show the process of having an idea.
Yeah.
Bouncing the idea off somebody, and then you can get the actual information to be able to completely talk about
Yeah,
the idea more.
and you feel like Joe Rogan.
Dude,
pure bliss.
This all just feels like pure bliss, man.
It is nice. It was actually really enjoyable.
It
I'm
was
glad that
enjoyable.
we got to talk about, certain topics. Next week, it probably won't be as exciting. We can probably make it as exciting,
Hell
but
yeah,
these were
man.
some pretty interesting topics. We went from deep fakes to arguing about Titan moons and real
Talking about the Sonic
in-depth
movie,
space and moon stuff, and I'm glad because I learned from this conversation.
It was a fun conversation,
It was a
Brandon.
fun conversation.
Thank you for sitting down with me
Yes.
for an hour and 22 minutes
Yes.
now to record this beautiful podcast. Ladies and gentlemen,
Always.
thank you for listening in. It is much appreciated, and we hope that you tune in next week.
So long, folks.
So long, folks.